The Judgment. The Chamber of Eternal Voices stood at the heart of the stellar Commonwealth, a structure so ancient that some believed it had grown rather than been built. Its walls were composed of living crystal that hummed with the memories of 10,000 years of galactic governance. Today, those walls would witness something unprecedented. Commander Sarachin stood in the defendant circle, her Earth Force uniform pressed and perfect despite the 3-month journey to reach this place. Around her, arranged in ascending tiers that seemed to stretch into infinity, sat the representatives of 412 alien civilizations. Each species had sent their finest minds, their wisest leaders, their most decorated heroes. And all of them were here to judge humanity. The Arbitrator Prime, a being called Xanthros, who resembled nothing so much as living smoke contained within silver armor, raised one ethereal limb for silence. His voice, when it came, bypassed ears entirely and spoke directly to the mind. It was a reminder of the vast gulf between humanity and these ancient races. The Commonwealth convenes to address the matter of species classification, specifically the status of the humans of Earth within our great union. Xanthros gestured toward Sarah with something that might have been contempt. Commander Chun, you stand as representative of your kind. The charges have been compiled over your species' 30-year membership in our Commonwealth. Do you understand why you are here? Sarah's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. I understand that we are being judged, arbitrator, though I confess I do not understand the crime. A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through the chamber. The Keltharians, beings of pure crystalline structure, chimed like breaking glass. The Morphids, shapeshifters who currently wore forms resembling great cats, made sounds that translated as mockery in Sarah's neural implant. Xanthros flickered, his smoke form darkening. The crime, Commander, is your nature, your very essence. Let us review the evidence, shall we? The air in the center of the chamber solidified into holographic displays, each one showing scenes from Earth's history. Sarah watched helpless, as humanity's darkest moments played out for the galaxy to witness. Wars, genocides, environmental destruction, nuclear weapons. The images were carefully selected, each one designed to showcase humanity at its absolute worst. Your species, Xanthros continued, achieved spaceflight while still engaging in tribal warfare. You developed weapons capable of destroying your own planet before you learned to feed all your people. You harbor violence in your very genes. Commander, you are, in the assessment of this council, fundamentally dangerous. A Keltharian representative rose, its crystalline body catching the light and throwing rainbows across the chamber. We have observed human behavior carefully since you joined our Commonwealth. You are aggressive, territorial, and irrational. Your emotional responses override logical thought. You cannot be trusted with the responsibilities of a civilized species. Sarah felt heat rising in her chest, but she forced herself to speak calmly. With respect, we have followed every Commonwealth law. We have contributed to joint missions. We have shared our resources and our knowledge freely. As servants should, came a voice from the upper tiers. It belonged to Ambassador Quellen of the Vostari, a species that resembled enormous beetles with too many legs and eyes that glowed like embers. You have been useful, human. No one denies this. Your kind makes adequate laborers, acceptable soldiers for dangerous assignments. You breed quickly and die easily, which makes you expendable. The words hit Sarah like physical blows, but Quellen was not finished. But usefulness does not equal worthiness. A tool has its place, Commander, and that place is not at the decision-making table. A hammer does not debate with the carpenter. More laughter rippled through the chamber. Sarah looked around at the assembled species, searching for a single sympathetic face. She found none. Even the Palaxians, who had once seemed friendly during a joint exploration mission, avoided her gaze. Xanthros spoke again, his voice carrying finality. The Commonwealth has deliberated. We find that humanity lacks the maturity, the wisdom, and the fundamental peaceful nature required for full membership status. Effective immediately, Earth's classification is changed from provisional member to auxiliary support species. Sarah's blood ran cold. What does that mean? It means, Xanthros said, that humans will no longer participate in Commonwealth councils. You will not vote on policy. You will not lead missions. You will continue to provide services as requested, but you will do so understanding your place in the natural order of civilized species. A Keltharian representative added, almost cheerfully, think of it as a kindness, really. We are relieving you of responsibilities you were never equipped to handle. You should be grateful. Sarah's hands clenched at her sides. For 30 years, humanity had worked alongside these species. Earth's engineers had repaired stations. Earth's doctors had treated alien diseases. Earth's ships had defended Commonwealth borders from raiders and pirates. They had given everything, and this was their reward. We have rights, Sarah said, her voice tight. Treaties. Agreements. You cannot simply. We can, Xanthros interrupted. And we have. The treaties stand, Commander, but reinterpreted in light of your new status. You will honor your commitments. You will continue to provide resources and personnel as contracted, but you will do so knowing that you serve at the pleasure of superior species. The arbitrator leaned forward, his smoke form coalescing into something almost solid. I will be plain with you, Commander Chun, in a way that perhaps you can understand. Your species is young. In cosmic terms, you are infants who have barely learned to walk. Look around this chamber. The Keltharians have maintained civilizations for 60,000 years. The Morphids have mastered genetic perfection over 100 millennia. The Vostari built their first interstellar empire when your planet was still cooling from its formation. He paused, letting the weight of those numbers sink in. What are you compared to this? What is humanity but a brief spark, here and gone in the blink of an eye? 1,000 years from now, when all of you are dust, these species will still be here, still building, still growing. You are temporary, Commander, a footnote in galactic history. And footnotes do not sit at the same table as the authors of destiny. The silence that followed was absolute. Sarah stood in the center of the chamber, alone among billions of beings who saw her kind as nothing more than useful animals. She thought of the pilots who had died protecting Commonwealth convoys, the engineers who had worked themselves to exhaustion maintaining alien technology, the diplomats who had spent decades trying to build bridges between Earth and the stars. All of it meaningless. Is there anything else you wish to say, Commander? Xanthros asked, and his tone suggested he hoped there was not. Sarah looked up at him, then slowly around the chamber at all the assembled species. She thought carefully about her next words, knowing they would be recorded, transmitted back to Earth, and studied by humanity for years to come. Yes, she said quietly. I have something to say. The chamber waited. You have made your judgment clear. You see us as servants, as tools, as temporary and forgettable. You believe we should be grateful for your condescension. Sarah's voice grew stronger. Very well. If that is how you see humanity, then let me tell you what humanity sees. She pointed at the displays still floating in the air, showing Earth's violent history. You show us our wars and call us barbaric, but we ended those wars. We learned. We grew. How many species in this chamber can say they overcame their own worst nature? You call us emotional and irrational. Yet it was human emotion that drove us to explore, to create, to reach for the stars even when logic said it was impossible. It was human irrationality that made us dare to join a commonwealth of species who clearly despised us. Sarah's voice echoed through the crystal chamber. You say we will be forgotten in 1,000 years. Perhaps you are right. But I wonder, in those 1,000 years, who will maintain the systems we built? Who will patrol the routes we defend? Who will do the work you consider beneath you? She looked directly at Xanthros. You have made your choice, arbitrator. You have shown us exactly what you think humanity is worth. Thank you for that clarity. It is illuminating. Without waiting for dismissal, Sarah turned her back on the Commonwealth Council and walked toward the exit. Behind her, voices erupted in outrage at the disrespect. But she did not stop. She did not look back. She walked out of the chamber of eternal voices and did not pause until she reached her ship. The journey back to Earth took 3 months. Sarah spent that time writing reports, compiling data, and preparing for what she knew was coming. The Commonwealth's judgment had been transmitted to Earth immediately, of course. By the time she arrived home, humanity had already watched their commander humiliated before the galaxy. She expected anger. She expected shame. What she found instead was something else entirely. President Marcus Webb met her ship personally. He was a tall man with iron gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. As Sarah descended the ramp, he saluted her, not as a subordinate to a superior, but as one soldier to another. "Welcome home, Commander," he said. "We need to talk." They met in the Situation Room deep beneath Geneva, along with every human who held real power. Military commanders, corporate leaders, scientists, engineers, the people who actually kept Earth running, while politicians gave speeches. President Webb played a recording of Sarah's trial. Every person in the room watched in silence as the Commonwealth pronounced judgment on humanity. When it ended, Webb turned off the display and looked around the table. "We have spent 30 years," he said quietly, "trying to prove our worth to species who will never see us as equals. We have given them our labor, our resources, our lives, and they call us servants." No one spoke. "I have a question for all of you," Webb continued. "What happens if we stop?" The director of Earth's Engineering Corps, a woman named Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, leaned forward. "Mr. President, we currently maintain 147 critical systems across Commonwealth space. Power grids, life support networks, communication relays. If we withdraw our personnel, the systems fail," finished Admiral James Rodriguez, commander of Earth's Defense Fleet. "Within weeks, maybe days." Webb nodded slowly. "And the treaty obligations?" "The treaties," said Earth's chief legal counsel, "require us to provide services and support, but they also contain clauses about mutual respect and equal partnership. The Commonwealth has voided those clauses with their new classification. Legally speaking, we would be within our rights to withdraw." "Legally," Webb said, "but morally?" That was the question that hung in the air. Somewhere in Commonwealth space, hospitals depended on human-manufactured medicines. Stations relied on human-maintained life support. Ships trusted human-patrolled trade routes. If Earth withdrew, beings would die. Sarah spoke for the first time since entering the room. "Mr. President, they called us temporary. They said we would be forgotten. They want us to accept our place as servants." She stood up. "I say we show them exactly what temporary looks like. I say we leave and let them remember us by what we take away." The room erupted in discussion. Arguments flew back and forth about consequences, about ethics, about what humanity owed to a galaxy that had scorned them. The debate raged for hours. Finally, President Webb raised his hand for silence. "We will put to a vote, not just this room, but all of Earth. Every human gets a say in what happens next." The vote took 1 week. When the results came in, they were overwhelming. 93% of humanity voted to withdraw from the Stellar Commonwealth immediately and completely. President Webb sent a message to the Chamber of Eternal Voices. It was short. "To the Stellar Commonwealth, Earth hereby withdraws from all treaties, agreements, and obligations effective immediately. We will remove all personnel, equipment, and resources from Commonwealth space within 30 standard days. We thank you for the clarity you have provided regarding humanity's place in the galaxy. You will not be troubled by our temporary presence any longer. Farewell." The message was sent simultaneously to every Commonwealth world, every station, every ship. There was no negotiation, no discussion, no chance for the Commonwealth to respond. Within hours, human personnel across the galaxy received their orders. Pack up, come home, leave nothing behind. And in the Chamber of Eternal Voices, arbitrator Xanthros read the message 3 times, certain he had misunderstood something. The humans were leaving. All of them. Everywhere. "This is absurd," he said to his advisors. "They cannot function without the Commonwealth. They will come begging to return within months." But deep in his smoke form, in a place he would not acknowledge even to himself, Xanthros felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Doubt the reckoning. The first system to fail was the Kepler Medical Station, orbiting the 3rd planet in the Velo system. It was a massive structure, home to 50,000 patients and 10,000 medical staff representing 37 different species. The station specialized in treating diseases that required long-term isolation, plagues, genetic disorders, and conditions so rare that entire civilizations might see only one case per generation. Dr. Miriam Foster had been the chief of biochemistry there for 8 years. She had synthesized cures, trained alien medical staff, and maintained the delicate balance of the station's pharmaceutical production systems. When Earth's withdrawal order came through, she did what every other human in Commonwealth space did. She left. The Keltharian who replaced her, a crystalline being named Shylar who had worked as her assistant, watched the production systems with growing alarm. Within 3 days, 2 critical drug synthesis processes had failed. Within a week, the station's entire pharmaceutical supply chain had collapsed. "I do not understand," Shylar said, his crystalline structure flickering with distress. "I followed every procedure exactly as Dr. Foster outlined. The system should work. But they did not work, because Dr. Foster had not just followed procedures. She had adapted them, adjusted them, fixed problems before they became critical. She had maintained a dozen interconnected systems through intuition and experience that no manual could capture. And now she was gone. The distress signal from Kepler Medical Station reached the Commonwealth Council on the same day as 17 other emergency transmissions. Power grids failing on colony worlds. Communication networks fragmenting. Life support systems showing critical errors. Defense satellites going dark. Arbitrator Xanthros stood in the Chamber of Eternal Voices and watched the reports multiply with each passing hour. Around him, the assembled representatives were no longer composed and superior. They were frightened. "This is impossible," declared Ambassador Quellan of the Vostari, his glowing eyes dimming with anxiety. Humans were support personnel, simple technicians. How can their absence cause such catastrophic failures? A Morphid representative, currently wearing a form that suggested a nervous bird, spoke up. "The Terran personnel were responsible for maintaining our deep space monitoring network. Without them, we have lost visibility into 70% of our border sectors. Pirates are already taking advantage. We have lost 4 convoys in the past 5 days. The agricultural stations in the Helios cluster have stopped producing," added a Palaxian diplomat, her multiple limbs trembling. Human agricultural specialists manage the climate systems. The crops are dying. Without those stations, we cannot feed the colonies in that sector. Xanthros listened to the reports with growing horror. For 30 years, humans had worked throughout Commonwealth space. They had taken the difficult jobs, the tedious jobs, the dangerous jobs. Everyone had assumed they did these things because they were useful servants, happy to have a place in the galaxy. No one had realized that humans had not just been working, they had been learning, and they had become indispensable. "Send a delegation to Earth," Xanthros ordered. "Offer them concessions, better status, access to restricted technologies, whatever it takes to bring them back." The delegation arrived at Earth's orbital stations 3 days later. They were met not by President Webb or Commander Chun, but by a mid-level bureaucrat named David Park, who worked in the Department of External Affairs. He greeted them politely in a small conference room that seemed deliberately underwhelming. "Thank you for coming," David said with a pleasant smile. "How can Earth assist you today?" The leader of the delegation was a Keltharian named Prism of Dawn, who had never expected to be negotiating with humans. "We come to discuss the recent misunderstanding. The Commonwealth Council acknowledges that perhaps our classification of humanity was hasty." "I see," David said, making notes on a tablet. "Please continue." "We are prepared to offer Earth full member status, voting rights on all councils, access to our technology archives, a significant increase in resource allocations." David nodded thoughtfully. "That is very generous. I will pass your offer along to the appropriate committees." Prism of Dawn's crystalline structure flickered with confusion. "Committees? We are offering you everything you asked for at your trial. Everything Commander Chen argued for." "Yes, and we appreciate that. However, Earth is currently undergoing an internal restructuring period. We are reassessing our priorities and our place in the galaxy. These decisions take time." "We do not have time." Prism of Dawn's voice lost its diplomatic polish. "Systems are failing. People are dying. We need human personnel to return to their posts immediately. David's pleasant expression did not change. I understand your concern. Unfortunately, all Earth personnel are currently assigned to domestic projects. We simply do not have anyone available for external deployment at this time. This is blackmail, Prism of Dawn said, his structure turning a dark, angry red. You are holding the galaxy hostage. No, David replied calmly. Blackmail would be if we were demanding something in exchange for our help. We are not demanding anything. We are simply unavailable, just as you were unavailable to grant us equal status when we requested it. I am sure you understand. The delegation returned to the Commonwealth with nothing. A second delegation was sent, offering even more concessions. They were met by the same bureaucrat, who was politely unhelpful. A third delegation brought threats of sanctions and isolation. David Park smiled and told them Earth was already isolated by their own choice this time. Meanwhile, across Commonwealth space, the situation deteriorated. The Kepler Medical Station had to evacuate half its patients. Power failures plunged colonies into darkness. The carefully maintained network of trade routes, once protected by human patrol ships, became hunting grounds for pirates and raiders. In the Situation Room beneath Geneva, President Webb and his advisors monitored the reports with grim satisfaction. The Vostari are trying to train their own people to maintain the systems we left behind, Dr. Okonkwo reported. They estimate it will take them 5 years to reach basic competency. The systems will fail long before that. Admiral Rodriguez added, Our intelligence indicates that at least 6 major species are on the verge of economic collapse. Their entire infrastructure was more dependent on human labor than anyone realized. Good. Commander Chin said flatly, Let them learn what temporary looks like. But President Webb frowned. What about the civilian casualties? The reports from Kepler Medical Station alone are tragic, Chin agreed, but not our responsibility. They made their choice when they called us servants, when they said we were not worthy of respect. Webb drummed his fingers on the table. There is a difference between letting them experience consequences and letting innocent people die. Commander, is there? Chen's voice was hard. Where was that distinction when human pilots died protecting their convoys? When human engineers worked themselves to death maintaining their stations? We gave them 30 years of service, and they spat on us. The debate was interrupted by an urgent alert. Admiral Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display that showed the outer rim of Commonwealth space. Mr. President, we are detecting massive movement in the void sectors. Something big is coming through. Everyone in the room went still. The void sectors were the dark spaces between spiral arms, regions so empty and hostile that even the ancient races rarely ventured there. But they were not uninhabited. The Devourers, Webb said quietly, the Devourers were the nightmare species of the galaxy. They were not conquerors or warriors in any traditional sense. They were more like a natural disaster given sentience, massive, organic ships that consumed everything in their path, breaking down matter for resources before moving on to the next target. For thousands of years, the Commonwealth had maintained a network of early warning stations and defensive platforms along the rim, keeping the Devourers at bay. Human crews had manned those stations, maintained those platforms, and patrolled those sectors. And now, those positions were empty. How long until they reach inhabited systems? Webb asked. At current speed for weeks, Rodriguez replied. They will hit the Velo system first. The same system that housed Kepler Medical Station, still struggling with half its patients evacuated and systems failing. Chin stood up. Not our problem. The Commonwealth has ancient races with tens of thousands of years of experience. Let them handle it. Commander, Webb began. No. Chen's voice was sharp. You are not seriously considering helping them. Not after everything they have done. Webb looked at the display, showing the Devourer's swarm. Thousands of massive bioships, each one capable of stripping a planet bare in days. Behind them, a trail of consumed worlds. Empty husks where thriving colonies had once existed. Patch me through to the Commonwealth Council, Webb said. Mr. President. Chun protested. I said, patch me through, Admiral. The transmission opened, and Arbitrator Xanthros appeared on screen. The once proud being looked diminished now, his smoke form unstable and flickering. "President Webb," Xanthros said, and his mental voice carried a weight of desperation. "We have been trying to reach you. The Devourers." "We know," Webb interrupted. "Our sensors detected them 3 hours ago. We also know you do not have the resources to stop them, not without the defensive network humans built and maintained. We are working to restore the defenses, but we need time. You do not have time. The swarm will reach Velos in 4 weeks. Kepler Medical Station cannot be evacuated in time, even if you had somewhere to send 50,000 patients." Xanthros was silent for a long moment. "What do you want, President Webb?" Webb leaned forward. "I want you to understand something, Arbitrator. When Commander Chen stood in your chamber, she asked for respect, for a partnership, for humanity to be seen as equals, and you called us servants. You called us temporary. You said we would be forgotten. We were wrong," Xanthros said, and the admission seemed to cause him physical pain. "The Commonwealth was arrogant. We did not understand what humanity truly contributed. We are prepared to offer." "I do not care what you are prepared to offer," Webb said coldly, "because here is what is going to happen. Earth will deploy our fleet to stop the Devourers. We will save your worlds, your stations, your people. We will do this not because you deserve it, but because innocent beings will die if we do not." Xanthros' form brightened slightly with hope. "But understand this," Webb continued, his voice hard as steel. "When this is over, Earth will never again work within your Commonwealth. We will never again seek your approval or beg for your respect. We are done being your servants. We are done being temporary. From this moment forward, humanity stands alone. We will build our own systems, maintain our own networks, and defend our own interests. If other species wish to work with us, they may do so as equals, as partners, or not at all. Mr. President," Xanthros said carefully, "you cannot simply leave the Commonwealth. The galaxy requires cooperation, coordination. The galaxy," Webb interrupted, "will learn to function without taking humanity for granted. We will help you this one last time. After that, you are on your own." The transmission ended. Commander Chen stared at the president. "You are really going to help them? After everything?" Webb turned to face her. "Yes, because that is what humans do, Commander. We help, even when it is not deserved, even when we get nothing in return. Not because we are servants, but because we choose to be better than those who wronged us." He stood up. "Admiral Rodriguez, prepare the fleet, every ship we have. Dr. Okonkwo, I want solutions to the failing Commonwealth systems. Temporary patches that will keep people alive until they can train their own personnel. We are not going back to maintain their infrastructure, but we are not going to let innocent people die out of spite." Chen shook her head in disbelief. "They will see this as weakness. They will think they can abuse us again." "No," Webb said quietly. "They will see this as strength, true strength, the kind that ancient races seem to have forgotten, the strength to help even when you have been wronged, the strength to do what is right rather than what is easy." He looked around the room at his advisors. "This is who humanity is, people, not servants, not conquerors, but beings who choose compassion even when the galaxy offers us none. That is what makes us worthy of respect. Not our technology, not our military might, but our character." Within days, the largest military fleet Earth had ever assembled launched toward the rim. 400 ships, each one incorporating technology learned from 30 years of Commonwealth service, but improved by human ingenuity. At their head flew the new flagship Indomitable, with Admiral Rodriguez at the helm. As the fleet jumped toward the void sectors, every species in the Commonwealth watched, some with hope, some with shame, all of them wondering the same thing. Would humanity actually save the galaxy that had scorned them? The Battle of the Rim lasted 72 hours. The Devourer swarm was massive, but it had never faced an enemy like the human fleet. Earth's ships were faster, more maneuverable, and commanded by officers who had learned to think creatively after decades of solving problems the Commonwealth considered unsolvable. Rodriguez watched the tactical display and saw patterns. The Devourers moved like a swarm, yes, but there was structure to their chaos. Supply ships in the center, scout vessels at the edges, and in the very heart of the formation, something massive. A queen ship, perhaps, or a command vessel. All ships, Rodriguez ordered. Spearhead formation. We're going straight through their center. The human fleet drove like a blade into the heart of the Devourer swarm. Ships were damaged. Lives were lost. But humanity did not retreat, did not hesitate. They fought with ferocity that ancient races had forgotten, a desperation born from being called temporary and worthless. When the Central Command ship exploded, the entire Devourer swarm fell into disarray. Without coordination, the bio ships became easy targets. The battle turned into a rout. In the Chamber of Eternal Voices, representatives watched the battle feeds in stunned silence. Species that had lived for thousands of years witnessed something they had never seen before. A young species, scorned and dismissed, saving the galaxy not for reward or recognition, but simply because it was right. When the last Devourer ship fled back into the void, arbitrator Xanthros found himself doing something he had never done in his long existence. He wept. The human fleet returned not to Earth, but to the Commonwealth border. Admiral Rodriguez sent a final transmission to the Chamber of Eternal Voices. The Devourer threat has been neutralized. We have uploaded temporary patches for your critical systems. They will keep people alive for approximately 6 months while you train your own personnel. After that, you are on your own. Earth is withdrawing all remaining personnel from Commonwealth space effective immediately. Do not contact us again unless you are prepared to treat us as equals. Admiral Rodriguez out. The human ships jumped away, leaving the Commonwealth to contemplate what they had lost. President Webb stood in the observation deck of the lunar station, looking down at Earth. Commander Chen joined him, her expression conflicted. We saved them, she said, and they will probably still see us as servants. Some will, Webb agreed, but others will remember. And in time, the galaxy will understand that humanity cannot be dismissed or forgotten. We are not temporary. Commander, we are eternal. Not because we will live forever, but because the choices we make echo through history. He turned to face her. We show them what we are truly capable of, not as servants, not as warriors, but as beings who choose compassion over revenge, who choose to help even when the galaxy offers us nothing but scorn. That is a humanity that will be remembered long after ancient empires have crumbled to dust. Chin smiled for the first time in months. So what now? Now, Webb said, we build our own future. We forge our own path among the stars. And if the Commonwealth wants to join us as partners, as equals, then we will welcome them. But we will never again beg for their approval. Far away, in the Chamber of Eternal Voices, arbitrator Xanthros drafted a message to Earth. An apology, a plea, an acknowledgement of everything the Commonwealth had failed to understand about humanity. Whether Earth would ever read it remained to be seen. But across the galaxy, in stations and colonies and worlds that humanity had saved, a new understanding was growing. The young species from the small blue planet were not temporary. They were not servants. They were not forgettable. They were humanity. And the galaxy would remember